Continuing our lesson further for day 33, on writing lines when we start with one in standard form that pass through a given point. In this case, it's perpendicular relative to the last video was going to be your parallel. And again, this is calling back that you remember that parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slope. So opposite means if it was positive, it's now going to be negative. If it was negative, it's now going to be positive. And reciprocal, remember, means flip. So right now, we don't know what our slope is. We don't have a slope. We only have an x and a y. So this is our x, and then this is our y. And then we're going to move right along. We need to first isolate y, so put it in slope-intercept form. So we have our y. We need to move whatever's on that side away from it to get y by itself. So we're going to add 9x because it's a negative on that side. And when it crosses the equal marks, it becomes opposite operations. So you have 3y equals negative 6 plus 9x. Then we're going to divide the coefficient of y. So whatever's attached to your y, we're going to divide by 3. So all three terms, these three goes away. And we have y equals, and we need to reduce where necessary. So negative 6 over 3, so we reduce 1y equals negative 6 divided by 3 is going to give me a negative 2. And then 9 divided by 3 is going to give me 3x. And this is fine. Again, just make sure you know that m, so your slope is always attached to your x, and your y-intercept is always the constant, the number that has no variable attached to it. Or rewrite it and just make sure you're paying attention to your positives and negatives and put things in the right place. So we now got our line in slope-intercept form, so that's y equals mx plus b form, instead of our standard form, where we can identify our slope. So again, our slope, remember, is the coefficient of x. That number, it's your m value, so coefficient of x is a number, is a word they really like to use that blows people's mind, coefficient just being the term attached to x, but we know this is also our m, or our slope. So if we know it's perpendicular, so we take our same slope. If it was parallel, we would just use that 3. Perpendicular, we need to make it opposite, and then we need to make it flip to make it reciprocal. So this is our opposite, and this is our reciprocal. And again, reciprocal just means flip. You can do all of this in one step. I'm just writing it out so you see it happen. So in this case, we want to go through and pull what we need. So we need our new slope. So our slope is going to be that negative 1/3, and we need our x and our y values. So our slope is going to be a negative 1/3. Our x value is going to be a 1, and our y value is going to be a 4. Now we're going to plug it in. So our y value is a 4. Our m, we just said, was a negative 1/3 because that's the opposite reciprocal to that positive 3 slope we had before, and we chose opposite reciprocal because it's asking for a perpendicular line, and then our x is 1. Now we're going to solve it as we run through. Again, just keeping things so we have nice, neat notes to follow with instructions that are written out for the future or things like our midterm. And then we're going to solve. So we end up with 4 still there. Negative 1/3 times 1 is just going to be negative 1/3. We're going to add 1/3 to both sides to get it away from b. And so that's going to be 4.3 repeating, or 4 1/3. But we've discussed it before prior to this. If you were going to go plot a number on a number line, most of us don't really like fractions. You could get to it, it's just going to take a little longer. So your b values are better as decimals, whereas your m value, when you need to rise and run, are better as a fraction. So we're going to now go grab our original perpendicular slope, so the opposite reciprocal from our original, and then we're going to grab our new b value, or starting point, of 4.3 repeating. And we have one more example. All right, so highlight the word perpendicular. It's not parallel, it is perpendicular. And sometimes we start reading a question and we miss the vocabulary word that means the most. And remember, perpendicular, as soon as you see that, remember that means they intersect at 90 degrees. And those are just some intersect at 90 degrees, more vocabulary words that will make other things in your life easier as soon as you connect them with perpendicular. And that means we have opposite reciprocal slope. And remember, reciprocal means flip. So first we need to get this in y equals mx plus b form. This is our standard form. And we want to put it into slope-intercept form. So we're going to take negative 9x plus 3y equals a negative 6. We need to get y by itself. Oh, it's the same problem as the one before. Oh, let's change it. Let's have it passing through a different point. Let's have it passing through, let's do 2. And how about, see if I can make them look better. 2, and let's do 6. 2 and 6 instead of 1 and 4. All right, we might end up with some messy stuff, but that's okay. We got this. So we're going to add 9x, add 9x. So we have 3y equals negative 6 plus 9x. So we're going to divide everything by 3 just like we did before. So y equals, that's a negative 2 plus 3x. So again, you want the opposite reciprocal of that 3. So in slope-intercept form is y equals 3x minus 2, just so we have everything in the right place. And you can, again, write it in the order that we have it here, or here is better maybe for most of you to make sure you maintain where your m and your b are. Our slope, so we take our 3 and we're going to make it negative 3, and then we're going to flip it to make it a negative 1/3. Or if you know that 3 over 1 is 3, you can just flip it and make it negative. So our perpendicular slope. Now we need to find our new b. It's passing through the point x, y, 2, 6. So our y value is going to be 6. Our slope is a negative 1/3. We're going to multiply that by 2. And then we're going to solve for our new b. So 6 equals a negative 2/3 plus b. We're going to add 2/3, add 2/3. Before we added 1/3, and it was 0.33, repeating. So if we have 2 of those, it's going to be 6.666 repeating. So it's going to be all the 6's all the way down forever. And then when we write our equation, we're going to take our, it's down here, sorry, perpendicular slope of a negative 1/3 plus 6.6 repeating forever and ever and ever. Just repeated 6's all the way across. And that line will be perpendicular to this line passing through 2, 6. The biggest thing, remember, that we've added relative to yesterday's notes is that you're going to have to put it in slope-intercept form, identify your slope, figure out what they're asking for, whether it be perpendicular or parallel. Parallel has same slope, perpendicular has opposite reciprocal slopes. Plug in your x and y and still solve for your new b value, and then just put it back together. All right, guys, that's perpendicular when starting in standard form. If you need me, like I said, reach out, email, ask me. I don't know if you need me if you don't ask me.